let's take a realistic look at gun control in New York State. The facts tell a very interesting story. According to the FBI, 774 murders were committed in New York in 2011. Of those, 445 were committed with firearms. An additional 329, or 42%, were committed by other means. Here's a closer look at the factors surrounding these crimes. 67% of the murders occurred in a single political jurisdiction. New York City had 515 murders in 2011. Ironically, this city has some of the most restrictive gun laws in the nation, including an assault rifle ban that was in effect long before the passage of the New York S.A.F.E Act. Additionally, pistol permits issued by any other county in New York are not valid in the 5 boroughs of New York City. They have their own extremely restrictive issuing laws and policies. Finally, New York City residents must apply for and receive a rifle or shotgun permit from the New York City Police Department and register every long gun with the NYPD. There is no doubt that New York City has strict gun control. Unfortunately, gun control does not translate into actual crime control. Here is a good example of how the facts are ignored when political motivations come into play. Here's a pie chart showing those 774 murders in 2011 in New York State, according to the FBI. Handguns were involved in 394 of the murders. An overwhelming majority of those guns were illegally possessed and/or illegally acquired. Shotguns were involved in 16 New York State murders in 2011. The FBI credited unknown firearms with 30 of the murders. Edged weapons took 160 lives during the same time period. One 143 murders were carried out with what the FBI calls other weapons. A total of 26 murders involved personal physical contact. Now, the last piece of the pie represents murders carried out with hunting rifles, historic rifles, and modern rifles combined. Some politicians, both state and federal, have attempted to ban a certain subset of this firearm based on their uninformed and inaccurate portrayal of its features and function. They also create their own false reality around this gun's role in societal violence. The red portion of the pie chart shows that a total of 5 New York murders were committed in 2011 with a rifle of any description. That's less than 1% of the total. Yet this firearm is unjustly targeted because its look will catch the attention of the media and the general public. Many politicians are willing to circumvent proper procedure, exploit tragedies, create drama, and flat out lie to reach their personal political agendas. Please allow this to sink in for just a moment. If New York State could somehow ban all future rifle sales, execute complete confiscation of all rifles legally owned, recover all rifles currently possessed by criminals, drug dealers, gangs, and finally completely eliminate any rifles from entering the state, we would have reduced the murders in 2011 from 774 all the way down to 769. Or it's quite possible that those with evil intent would simply find another way to accomplish their criminal deeds. Here's some other interesting numbers. Now, we all know that death occurs daily in our state as it does across the country. I got 4 categories of death and how it occurs. It's part of life, we understand that. But this can kind of show an interesting trend. every day in New York State, 1.2 people are murdered with a firearm. 3.2 people die as a result of an automobile crash. 120 people die every day as a result of heart disease. But 281 lives are terminated every day in New York State through the use of legalized abortion. The governor's twisted agenda falsely claims that New York SAFE will help fix this problem while making laws that make abortions more common and more accessible. Is he really interested in saving lives? So why would politicians push the New York City-style gun control on all New Yorkers? Well, remember, it's all about power. New York City holds 43% of the state's population, but the land area is less than 1% of the state's total. Put those two numbers together, and there's 27,000 people per square mile. As for the rest of the state, which does include many major cities, there is 57% of the state's population and 99% of the state's total area. That equates to 207 people per square mile. It's also worthy to note that New York City is the headquarters of the United Nations. When the politicians and voters are concentrated in any political jurisdiction, they believe that they write the rules. Gaining power and keeping power is the driving force of all politics. Sadly, many career politicians see your individual rights guaranteed by the founding documents as inconvenient roadblocks to their personal agendas and political aspirations. They believe that your life is best controlled by the inhabitants of a distant capital. So, this man and his political allies, through New York SAFE, have forced the failed New York City gun control model on all residents of New York State. They don't care that it will not prevent crime or decrease deaths. The law simply fits the political agenda of power and control. Furthermore, he has done this without input from anyone outside of his inner circles. He continues to ignore resolutions of repeal from 52 county governments and over 200 municipalities and organizations, including a quickly growing number of law enforcement agencies. To see the most complete list of opposition to New York SAFE, check out NYSAFEresolutions.com. It is the internet's best source and most current and up-to-date information on opposition. So who is behind the opposition? We are law-abiding, hard-working, tax-paying, patriotic New Yorkers from all walks of life. This man has repeatedly referred to us as extremists and a vocal minority. Is this leadership or tyranny? Is this honest governing or unjust oppression? Are these the actions of a true public servant or a clear case of governmental ignorance and arrogance? Here are some of the immediate effects of New York SAFE. It is certainly the violation of the rights granted by nature and God and guaranteed by our Constitution and Bill of Rights. It is the overnight creation of a new class of suspects and criminals, specifically you and your neighbors who have done nothing wrong. It promotes the dangerous yet justified growth of distrust in government and government officials. It has caused tension and suspicion between the general public and law enforcement, which hurts the balance of a civil society and dramatically decreases the level of safety for everyone. New York SAFE creates a new pathway for government to violate your rights to privacy, property, and security. As a gun owner in New York, you are now automatically a person of interest in the eyes of the government. I like to look on the bright side, so here is the silver lining of the New York SAFE Act. The public is now awake and aware of the ugliness and corruption of an out-of-control government. We, the people, have learned how to join together, and we will defend and support liberty and honor those Americans who purchased our freedom throughout history. History tells the story that America has the will and the ability to secure liberty for all of its citizens. We have definitively displaced tyranny once. Do not doubt or underestimate our ability to do it again.
Every time our country stands in the path of danger, an instinct seems to summon her finest first, those who truly understand her. When freedom shivers in the cold shadow of true peril, it's always the patriots who first hear the call. When loss of liberty is looming, as it is now, the siren sounds first. In the hearts of freedom's vanguard, the smoke in the air of our Concord bridges and Pearl Harbors is always smelled first by the farmers who come from their simple homes to find the fire and fight, because they know that sacred stuff resides in that wooden stock and blued steel, something that gives the most common man the most uncommon of freedoms. When ordinary hands can possess such an extraordinary instrument, that symbolizes the full measure of human dignity and liberty. That's why those 5 words issue an irresistible call to us all. I want to say those fighting words for everyone within the sound of my voice to hear and to heed. From my cold, dead hands.
Which group of individuals would you trust to provide honest, principled leadership? Which group demonstrated the ability to lead by example and risk their lives and fortunes in pursuit of liberty and justice for all? We are all human, certainly imperfect and prone to error. However, which group will history show to have achieved greater unselfish political accomplishments to the benefit of all men? The individuals in the upper left discussed, debated, and passionately fought for the principles, concepts, and documents that created a new and uniquely free nation. The Republic has endured and remained as the model of freedom around the world. The individuals at the lower left used political maneuvers to force a vote on exceptionally flawed legislation before open discussion and debate could occur. Furthermore, this legislation, through a message of necessity, clearly violated our guaranteed rights at a time when statistics show that violent crime, including murder, is down 49% over the last 20 years. Through the New York SAFE Act, these individuals have set a vague and unjust trap for lawful New Yorkers, and they have the audacity to smile about it. They are eagerly waiting for the next tragedy to occur. They will use criminal activities of madmen to justify their abuse of power. In the meantime, they will celebrate any arrests or convictions under their new and grossly unjust law. Here's what the governor's website says about the new law. The SAFE Act stops criminals and the dangerously mentally ill from buying a gun by requiring universal background checks on gun purchases. It increases penalties for people who use illegal guns, mandates life in prison without parole for anyone who murders a first responder, and imposes the toughest assault weapons ban in the country. For hunters, sportsmen, and law-abiding gun owners, this new law preserves and protects your right to buy, sell, keep, or use your guns. Governor Andrew Cuomo. Let's break this down one at a time. Really? It stops criminals and the dangerously mentally ill from buying guns. How many firearms destined for criminal use are currently purchased through legal means? Is this policy working in New York City? Why have you, Governor, slashed funding for mental health programs? You claim it increases penalties for people who use illegal guns. Of course, you, Governor, just radically changed the definition of illegal guns. How about increasing the penalties and prosecution of individuals who use guns illegally, leaving the freedoms of the lawful intact? And finally, you claim that this new law preserves and protects our right to buy, sell, keep, and use our guns. Okay, you clearly have a unique definition of preserve and protect that is at odds with the Founding Fathers and many patriotic Americans who know and appreciate the history and principles of our nation. We all know that government does not and cannot exist without revenue from its constituents. Please understand that your tax dollars will be wasted in the defense of the New York S.A.F.E Act in the upcoming legal challenges. Furthermore, your tax dollars will be used to harass, oppress, investigate, arrest, and jail fellow New Yorkers under this unconstitutional law. Do you have a personal response to the New York S.A.F.E Act? Are you willing to sit by and allow any government official to take away what your citizenship has given? Are you willing and ready to stand up? In the land of the free and the home of the brave, there is only one acceptable destiny for the New York S.A.F.E Act.